My name is Garrett Klahn. I was born September 4th, 1974, and I was asked a question on the way to the airport, on our way coming here to Germany for this tour, to what my favorite record was, and I really didn't have to think too hard, and it didn't take very long at all. I picked George Harrison's All Things Must Pass. This record has always been in my life. My dad had it, and he actually had it this style too, not the gatefold. But I was never really allowed to touch it, but I remember him playing it, and I remember my older cousins playing it. But when I was a kid, I just liked the way it sounded, in its purest form, I guess. But as I got older and got into music myself and, started down that path that everybody goes through, I think your Beatles phase, right? Everybody goes through a Beatles phase. Just that there's so much written about them, and there's so much photographs from that era and old film footage that, you end up picking your favorite Beatle, and mine was always kind of George, but just the fact that it's a triple record. He was 24 years old, which I still can't fucking believe. And it was basically what I don't know this for a fact or if it's 100% been proven, but the way I see it is, everybody's heard that, John and Paul would just not really let George kind of get any songs in. They'd give him 2, they'd give him 3 every once in a while. But, once the shit hit the fan and the Beatles broke up, I just feel like George just said, you know what, fuck them. It seems like it's amazing to think that, I guess one theory is like these were all songs that he probably played for the boys, John and Paul and Ringo, saying, oh, check this out. And they said, no. We'll do fucking, I can't even think of one right now, but one of John's goofy ones, But it's like this collection of the most heart-wrenching, beautiful, soulful, loving tunes you've ever heard, and it's just like he shit them out, I don't know if it was the first Beatles solo record, but I think it's the best selling. I'm not sure, but just the fucking cover alone, it's just intense to think he had all of that brewing inside of him at 23, 24 years old, while all that other craziness was going on with his band, the fucking Beatles. But yeah, you can hear it in the songs, I think. It's big, it's up. He was kind of into his, I guess maybe like really getting serious about his devotional stuff to, he was interested in Krishna consciousness, and it's all over this record. But so is, just heartbreaking love songs, throwaway cuts that last 2 minutes. You could tell that he was listening to a lot of American music. There's so much of the band in that record, and it's just such an amazing feat, for that to be his first solo output, those songs. And there's not a bad song on the whole record. But it was very big in the van when Texas Is the Reason was together in the 90s, like when we were together for those 3 years. It wasn't CDs, they were on cassettes, my friends. But it was a double cassette. It was big and thick. I remember that. And late night drives, I clearly remember, like, after driving for 12 hours in America, how far those drives can be, going from state to state. But I just remember that, like, there was always the All Things Must Pass case, like, rattling on the dashboard of the van. You could always just, oh, fuck it, George will get us there. I have multiple favorite moments on this record. The song Wah Wah always just kind of, I don't know, it's a really heavy tune, and there's so, I feel, I don't know, again, like just like all of us, I think anybody who'd be half interested in this sort of question and answer thing. I mean, everybody knows about the strife that was going on in the Beatles, like when they were together and like when they were breaking up. But you know, like the most vicious riff on that record, the most vicious drum beat, you know, like just a sick wailing guitar. And it's a song called Wah Wah, and it's about, you know, it's like a baby crying. And that's how I see it anyway in here. Like the lyrics, it just sounds like he's saying to John and Paul and Ringo, so just go fuck yourself, just keep crying. I'm gonna go with my boys to Friars Park, whatever the name of the castle that he lived in, you know, and get the it's just like a who's who of session players on that record. Jim Keltner, he was in Derek and the Dominoes. Eric Clapton is all over the record. Phil Collins played percussion on the fucking record. A lot of people don't know that. Ronnie Wood, Ringo Starr, Leon Russell. I mean, it's just like, you know, I think when John and Paul went straight up their own asses, you know, and were doing, you know, breaking the Beatles up, George was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna chill out with my friends, get really stoned, and live in this castle and make, you know, let's just make some music. And it's just amazing that that's what it was, you know. But Wah Wah is a first like go-to pick on that record. Another one is his cover of Bob Dylan's "Isn't It a Pity." I think Dylan wrote it, but yeah, that's just 6 minutes of absolute, you know, just it's so beautiful, and it just keeps going on and on and on and on and on. And you know, Phil Spector produced it. It's got like that, it goes from like these kind of skiffle songs that maybe he used to play when he was a kid. You know, you've read about that, like they were all in like little junkyard bands when they were kids. There's stuff like that on it, but it builds up to, you know, these gospel tinged hymns almost. It's kind of like a hymnal. That song, Isn't It a Pity? It's yeah, it's beautiful. Eric Clapton's all over that, his slide guitar, and yeah. Well, this record definitely you know, influenced me. I mean, it's got, like I was saying before, it's got almost every different kind of music on it. Like he really had, I don't know, the stars were aligned for those guys, you know, from that era, I think. So, you know, George just picked that path to keep his mind open and his heart open and just let the music kind of take him. I know it sounds corny, but, you know, we've read the interviews with him and seen it. Like he really just cared about music and he cared about God. Like those are the two things that he cared about the most. And but I guess, you know, that aspect of it, you know, definitely influenced me. The idea of just getting together to play music with friends just because, you know. And I've read that that's kind of how these songs were fleshed out. You know, they all went to George's house and hung out and ate food and drank and smoked and, you know, talked and bullshitted and, you know, eventually picked up their instruments and, you know, made this record. In that sense, that definitely influenced me in that sense. But I mean, as far as like song structures and, you know, like putting some drama into a song, like intentional drama, yeah, that it definitely influenced me in that sense too. You know, he kind of just wasn't afraid to do or try anything. It seemed like he just said, "Fuck it, let's just do it," you know. And the production of it, you know, Phil Spector, that wall of sound thing that he made so famous, you know, that definitely had a big influence on the way that I feel like, you know, songs should be heard in the studio. And I mean, it's pretty rare that I'm in the studio these days, but, you know, it's always been kind of a benchmark for me, you know.